Alright, guys, so today we're going to take a look at Hirudegarn, our beloved. Hirudegarn finally gets a character. Now, this guy is interesting in that, I mean, he probably is just exactly what villains need, which is like a dominant god, but the villain situation is a bit more complicated than all that, right? In the last, 6 or 7 months, I mean, we had DOKKANFEST TUR, who was, the very last day of May, I believe? And then we had Omega in July, and then we have Fusion Zamasu in August. And that's all we've had for villains over basically almost the entire year. So that puts us in a really tough spot when, I mean, you guys know how Dokkan gets with these difficult fights. Typically, you're only really using characters from, that year, and then just, select elite characters from a previous year or something like that. Like, Gamma 1, for example. So, that, I mean, certainly can put us in some issues when villains have almost no 2023 characters whatsoever. I mean, there are some good EZAs and stuff like that, but, I mean, Hirudegarn can't do it by himself. I mean, we look at these categories: movie bosses, resurrected warriors, legendary existence, transformation boost, time traveler, planetary destruction, and storied figures. I mean, these are not legitimate teams. None of them are. None of them. Now, people might say, well, what about movie bosses? Yeah, hell no. No, it's not. Who is the legitimate character here? The World Tournament free-to-play character that can only be used on a villain space traveling warrior team? Turles, who sucks? LR Metal Cooler, who sucks? LR Cooler, who sucks? Golden Frieza, who's solid? Like, it's, we're not looking good. So, the thing is, if they're going to start to make villains relevant, they got to do what I think they did here with Hirudegarn, which is make them super busted. So, let's just go ahead and jump in. Now, Hirudegarn, is it? Wait, okay, so he does his intro, he gets the stats, high chance to crit for 5 turns, 200% stats, 100% attack when attacking, 70% chance to dodge. He gets an additional 70% chance to be a super after he dodges, and then he gets defense with every dodge he does. He does also stack defense. 337. I mean, he seems good. So we're starting out at about 300k defense. Remember, he is a villain, which means he's going to take less damage, from these villain bosses compared to superclass characters. I mean, he does have, honestly, a decent link set here. So we have Brutal Beatdown, Berserker does suck, but then Big Bad Bosses, Revival, Nightmare, Fear and Faith, Fierce Battle. I do think they gave Hirudegarn a pretty solid villain link set to work effectively. So the dodges are going to get us extra defense, and then, of course, every super attack is going to get us stacks of defense as well. The thing is I'm not really... So Hirudegarn stacks defense, but I don't really see what the point is, because once we transform, I'm not super sure how it works yet. It's like, as time goes on, I kind of experiment with it, we'll see a little bit more, but transformed Hirudegarn might have an infinite loop of 100% chance to dodge in which he cannot be touched. So, I mean, if that's the case and Hirudegarn just infinitely loops dodging, I don't really see why he even stacks defense. I mean, I'll take it. He just stacks defense raw, which means it's a 30% stack. Remember, characters that stack attack and defense typically are stacking 20% attack and defense, rather than just like a raw defensive stack, which is 30%, right? Which is good. We'll take that. So, I mean, he's still getting defense when he supers, but it's not like super impactful or something like that, I don't think. Alright, here's Cooler's intro. Sure. Cooler's intro is very fast. You don't even have to put the thing on. Now, we'll be able to transform into Hirudegarn. His condition is just like Dragon Fist. It's pretty good, I would say. We're able to transform with him. It's either when turn 3 under 70% HP or turn 6. I suppose if we would have like a perfect RNG run where we're not really taking damage, I mean, Hirudegarn, will so easily get killed by a big boss supering him on like turn 5 or something like that, right? Like Physical Fusion Zamasu. I mean, I don't need to tell you guys he'd one-shot him. You know that, right? Like, we get it. All right, now the dodges are important again. Remember, he builds up a little bit of defense, but then he also gets that additional as well. we actually got the super attack this time. Remember, that additional he gets from dodging is a 70% chance to super. I mean, I didn't really talk about it, but last turn, you know, we didn't get the chance to proc. It does, you know, it does have a tendency to happen where it's like, oh, oops, 70% wasn't normal, right? And then I get people telling me, oh, you're intentionally making the unit look bad. Oh, yeah, sorry, guys. Let me just change my luck, man. 658. Huh. Because this cooler is supporting Terrifying Conquerors, which Hirudegarn is not on. So this is Hirudegarn with no support. 658. Is he fully built up? I don't think so. Huh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're on a 200% leader skill team, of course, right here. Like, I'm looking at this, and it's like, it seems like on a 200% leader skill, like, Hirudegarn is really good. Because he's in a range where boss normals are really not going to be doing much to him. Because, again, remember, he's a villain. Like, we're talking about these big villain bosses. These red zone bosses are, like, all villains. The one place, I guess, would be Physical Fusion Zamasu, because it's type disadvantage. Let's hope that Rose does not super... STR Cooler, remember, sucks. So let's hope that Rose does not super him at the end, or we're going to just get one-shotted, which will suck. All right, no dodge right there, sure. That does matter because it doesn't get us the additional, right? Hopefully Cooler does not get one-shotted. Like, yeah, I bring STR... My bad for break. Please super... Oh, okay, good. We're good. Yeah, every time I bring STR Cooler... Oh, no dodging from Hirudegarn. Okay. And he takes 38k, yeah. Yeah, he seems pretty good. Now, Hirudegarn, right, doesn't really have setups right now. He's not on any good villain teams. So, I mean, when it comes, like, okay, like, all right, we're going to do the World Tour for him. We're going to take him into Fusion Zamasu. I mean, I could try his team a little bit, but there's not, like, I don't, like, Fusion Zamasu with his team is just not fun because he doesn't have really good options. I mean, I guess we do have LR Metal Cooler, which is useful, because LR Metal Cooler could give us, like, the revive reset, but remember that Metal Cooler, I mean, in order for him to revive, he has to get hit. Right, which it's not really that great against Fusion Zamasu, who hits everyone. Right, like you can't really just, oh, like we're going, like this character's going to be the one that dies or something like that. Garlic Jr. could really fail me as well, by the way. So let's hope that does not happen. Garlic Jr., I brought you just for the showcase. Do not fail us, please. All right, let's see how we do here. So, I mean, we'll transform as soon as we're able to. Again, if we take damage, fall below 70%, we'll be able to transform. Otherwise, it's turn 6. Now, I mean, if we're fighting, like a lot of these bosses, I think the chances of transforming on turn 3 are going to be fairly decent, right? Being below 70% HP does not seem like a very difficult task. So that is one thing that's going to be really good for us. And again, when it comes to the World Tour, I probably will be using Hirudegarn just on Zamasu's team. Hirudegarn probably will be a nice asset to Zamasu's team, certainly when transformed. God damn it. I don't think this will one-shot us, but I mean, hey, I guess we'll get Hirudegarn next turn. Okay, yeah, I brought Garlic Jr. Oops. So now Hirudegarn transforms, and then Hirudegarn gets very interesting. Okay, this is good for us that there is a lot of kind of like attacks bunched up right there at the start. So the way I believe that this bad boy is going to work here too is... Okay. So Hirudegarn, right? Let's just go over his passive. I feel like it's pretty relevant for like how this guy goes. By the way, we're at 723 for defense. Okay. So he gets 50% attack on a super attack effect, sure. So this guy gets 3 key and 250% attack and defense. He gets another 150% attack when attacking. He gets 100% attack and defense and a high chance to crit as the first attacker in the turn. So we do want to run him in slot 1. He gets an additional as a 70% chance to be a super. He has a 70% chance to dodge. He gets an additional as a high chance to be a super after he dodges. And then he gets 10% chance to dodge and 10% chance to crit for every attack evaded during the turn. And then every time 3 attacks are dodged, he evades all enemy attacks on the character's next turn. So the way it seems like Hirudegarn is probably going to work is that once he dodges 3 attacks, next turn, he's going to have guaranteed dodge. So it's like you're going to start up like a combo of him where every single turn... Okay, Hirudegarn, you do need the dodge, though. God damn it. Okay, well... Okay, sure. Him dodging is important because we get the extra additional, too, remember? But, like, once he gets a couple of... so there we go, guys. 2 seconds in, and the answer for Hirudegarn is you give him full dodge build. you give him full dodge build to make sure you get those early dodges in. But once he dodges 3 attacks, supposedly... Okay, sure. Once he dodges 3 attacks, he is going to have the guaranteed dodge. Now, I believe the guaranteed dodge is only going to start kicking in next turn. I think that this, like, 10% chance to dodge per dodge probably is going to work like Yamcha's, right? Whereas Yamcha, when every time he super attacks, he gets a 10% chance to dodge, but it is a separate proc from the rest of his dodge chance, right? So, like, Yamcha will have a 50% chance to dodge. He'll have a dodge chance for how many times he super attack, and then he'll have his hidden potential system dodge chance. That's how Yamcha works. Hirudegarn, I would imagine, would be the same way. Alright, okay, so, I mean, this is not really going all according to Keikaku right now, where it's like we do kind of want to run him in slot 1. I mean, he's not necessarily locked into slot 1, though. It's just an extra 100% attack and defense and a high chance to crit. So we certainly could, like, you know, doing, like, a very tough run, move him around if need be, which is good. I'm not super sure. I mean, Hirudegarn is very good. He's within the top level of TURs, for sure. Like, I would have him there, you know, with God Goku, with 23rd World Tournament Goku, with Piccolo Jr., with Dragon Fist. I'm just not super sure. Hirudegarn, to me, does feel like a character who very easily will be aging probably better than almost nearly any character in the game right now, I would imagine, with the way Hirudegarn is set up, right? Like, with all these dodges and stuff like that. But, I mean, there is still a huge amount of RNG to it, right? Like, the enemy does need to be lining up their attacks for you perfectly every single time. It's like Hirudegarn will work best against the hardest fights, like Omega and Fusion Zamasu, who are overloading the turns with attacks. Although physical Fusion Zamasu, no, he does attack a lot. Yeah, he does attack a lot. Like that's where Hirudegarn will be at his best. The more attacks, the better for him to be able to constantly be able to string up some of these. But it's like, you know, it's going to be a dodging thing, right? Where sometimes I think we'd have a run where the boss is stringing up all their attacks perfectly, and Hirudegarn is just going to, you know, kind of like chain dodge everything. But I think that there also would be runs where that's not going to happen, or he's not going to dodge. But, I mean, we know how strong dodge overall is, right? So Hirudegarn up there with all the best TURs, I do think is going to be very fair. So on this turn right here, Hirudegarn has guaranteed dodge. And then the way we should be able to get it is that, like, if he dodges 3 more attacks during this turn, which we have 3 attacks right there, now this kind of, like, starts, kind of like, you know, like a chain motion guaranteed dodge for him, is what I think is going to happen. So, yeah, Hirudegarn looks good. I mean, I'm going to want a lot more time to use with these guys before I can really determine exactly how busted they are. Like Dragon Fist and Hirudegarn. At minimum, they're, you know, like, each competing, I think, for best TUR. I think you could probably make a case for both Dragon Fist and Hirudegarn. I do think Hirudegarn's teams are going to be an issue. So, you know, we'd be running him on the Zamasu team, potentially. Where, you know, he'd be at a double one. Like, he'd be losing 100% stats compared to a 200% team, right? Like, we'd be Hirudegarn with the double 150 from 2 leaders, he'd be at 300% stats. Whereas if we had the double 200% sets, you'd be at 400%, right? So like that's something to keep in mind. So what that means is it's going to put him much more reliably into true dodge or die territory. But I feel like even him with only double 150, he should be a buff for Zamasu's team, right? Because Zamasu, Hirudegarn does synergize rather well with Zamasu, and that Zamasu's untouchable for the first couple of turns, but then he'll kind of fade off a little bit, and it's like, you know, you can put him in slot 2, and if he super attacks first, he'll be able to tank reasonably, but, you know, he's not the god that he was. Whereas Hirudegarn, after you could transform with him, you get him in slot 1, and he potentially is dodging everything. So that's, you know, it does seem like it'll work well. I am going to be very interested to see what happens, like, once, like, transformation boost. That is the villain team we're looking for. If transformation boost gets actual, like, villain lineups, that could be good. That could be good. Like a true, very powerful villain leader for transformation boost. I think Hirudegarn would be a very impressive option. So let me know what you guys think. Both Hirudegarn and Dragonfist seem uber busted to me, though. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.